Hello everyone. In this module 7, we have discussed about role of heredity and environment in child development, especially the study support to heredity. Now we are in module 8. We are going to discuss about role of heredity and environment. Dear students, we are going to discuss about role of heredity and environment in child development, especially study support to environment theory. At the end of the class, you will learn about the environment, and you can understand the role of heredity and environment, and you can analyze the study supports to environmental theory. Let me see the studies support to environmental theory. An abnormal environment affects by physical development, as is shown by experiments in the protection of monsters. For example, the fish embryos kept in ice baths develop with a one eye in middle. The Arctic white-furred rabbit coat are turned dark when the light was cut off. Even with the reference of humans, such a patently hereditary traits as height appear to susceptible to environmental influence as seen in from the fact of generations of American Chinese of Californian coast, in spite of inbreeding were on average taller than native Chinese. The case history of feral children, the children brought up in a non-human environment accidentally, also throw a light of a role of environment, cultural and social in normal personality development. One such a case is that Amala and Kamala. They were recovered from the den of a wolf in a Bengal forest when they were aged 2 and 9 years. They used to walk and eat like a horse. Amala died in a hospital after some time, but Kamala was subjected to further study. By providing a suitable environment and training, she was made to walk on food and speak like a human child. The Cyril Bird and Healy and Bronner Udayasankar of Delhi and others have found in their studies that delinquency and criminality are the result of an antisocial environment like a degenerative and broken homes of poverty and overprotection of rejections and insecurity, etc. Okay, let me conclude the concept of role of heredity and environment and in child development, especially for the heredity influence the child development. Some studies support to environmental theory. Okay, as per the Dr. Prem Pariskar remarks, it is quite customary and for the psychological weighted to the side and heredity and the environment to perform the experiment and quote finding in favor of either or the factors. It has also been found that finding of these experiments can be interpreted either a way and can interpreted either a way and can easily be made to support the other view. So when analyzed in an objective manner, it indicated clearly that the two are closely interwoven. So that is the difficult to separate the effect of one from the other. So if the individuals of personality is taken to represent the area of rectangle, then heredity will from the base of the rectangle and environment from the attitude. So if any one of now as the this picture shows the normal human development and heredity and the environment, how it is the influence the child development we can show, and also it is predict the human personality too. two factors are affected by the personality developments become stand, and it is not a question of either or between heredity and environment. It is a question of heredity and environment. This basis of personality traits is heredity, how much it has been developed, and is determined by the nature of the environment made available, but how much maximum it can be developed is limited by the heredity. Thus the heredity and environment are compulsory and not contradictory in the growth and development of individuals. Okay, upcoming video will helps you understand more concept of role of heredity influencing the child development. Okay.
Many researchers believe that environmental factors primarily cause cultural and ethnical differences. They argue that because of a history of discrimination, minority groups comprise a disproportionately large part of the lower social classes, and therefore cultural and ethnic differences in intelligence are really differences among social classes. People in lower social classes have a relatively deprived environment. Children may have fewer learning resources, less privacy for study, less parental assistance, poor role models, lower quality schools, less motivation to excel intellectually. Some researchers argue that IQ tests are biased against minority groups and thus cause the apparent culture and ethnical differences. However, not all minority groups score lower than whites on IQ tests. Asian Americans achieve a slightly higher IQ score on average than whites, and they also show better school performance. Researchers suggest that this difference is due to Asian American cultural values that encourage educational development. Other aspects of intelligence and heredity. Emotional intelligence came to the public's attention in 1990. Expressing our emotions has an effect in all aspects of our lives. Thus, our emotional intelligence is of utmost importance in each individual's life. Emotional intelligence means our capacity to deal with our feelings wisely, as well as the ability to reason out for our vital well-being. It deals with our self-concepts to social skills, creativity, and our ability to understand our emotions as well as others. Students, do you think emotional intelligence is important? Probably not. We used to think about intelligence as reasoning and logic. We tend to ignore our emotions. However, intelligence and emotions are interrelated. For example, people who are unable to understand their own emotions could get into situations where they may not know how to handle their feelings, whereas people who have a good balance of IQ and EQ are often more successful in their life. EQ is not about tactics or diplomacy. It deals with how we learn, acknowledge, and express our feelings, but also how effectively we respond to others when it comes to dealing with their emotions. Emotional intelligence is the ability to know one's inner world and be comfortable with it. It is a set of skills that not only leads to better academic and professional functioning, but also good social interactions and a healthy living, which leads to personal satisfaction. We can say that 50% of our weak EQ is inherited through our genes, and other 50% is obtained from our interaction with the environment. There is a difference between IQ and EQ. IQ can be defined as individual competence to perform in his or her academic work, where EQ indicates an individual's ability to get along with other people and handle social situations. Thus, both are of equal importance. Heredity and environmental factors both play an important role in the development of EQ. Some children are more emotionally gifted from infancy as they are able to understand others' emotions as well as their rather easily. Parents and teachers play the most essential role in developing a child's EQ. They need to provide opportunities where a child can express and deal with his or her emotions. They should be willing to listen to them, have realistic expectations, and not compare them to other children. Parents and educators should not only encourage the child's abilities and interactions but also their sensitivity. They should model social behaviors appropriately. One approach taken for working on increasing EQ is to increase emotional competency, which can be broken down further into specific competencies. Some of these competencies can be self-awareness. Self-awareness, knowing one's internal states, impulses, and resources. Emotional awareness. Emotional awareness, recognizing one's emotions and their effects. Accurate self-assessment, knowing one's strengths and limits. Self-confidence, one's sense of self-worth and capabilities. Empathy, awareness of others' feelings, needs and concerns. Now let us conclude. Conclusion. Researchers generally agree that heredity and environment have an interactive influence on intelligence. Many researchers believe that there is a reaction range to IQ which refers to the limits placed on IQ by heredity. Heredity places an upper and lower limit on the IQ that can be attained by a given person. The environment determines where within these limits the person's IQ will lie. Despite the prevailing view that both heredity and environment influence intelligence, researchers still have different opinions about how much each contributes and how they interact. It is clear from the brief summaries provided on twin, adoption, and family studies that there is no black and white answer to the age-old question of what contributes to human behavior, personality, and psychopathology. In reviewing a multitude of twin, adoption, and family studies branching a larger variety of topics, it is clear to see that the foundation for each human being is diverse in structure. For some cases, genetics seem to dominate. In some other cases, environment explains all. In still more situations, it is a strong combination of two factors that mold people to be who they are. There is a strong indicator that there will never be a clear response to the question, and that personality, intelligence, and development may always have to be rationalized on a case-by-case basis. So we can conclude by saying that the nature-nurture debate in education is a very important one that still needs further attention and research from educators. Educators should also note the debates regarding what constitutes intelligence. The answer to this important question keeps changing with the challenging times. In earlier days, logic was called intelligence and people were measured using intelligence quotient. A few years earlier, we had emotional quotient and developments associated with it. Today we have multiple intelligence theory which even speaks about the spiritual quotient and awareness of the person. So, nature-nurture debate will keep changing along with the changing definitions of intelligence also.
I hope you all are understand the concept of role of heredity and environment and in child development. Okay, we will see in the next module. Thank you.